Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 on a Sunday morning. We are recording. This is the time of day on July 13th. That is the 13th, right? July 13th, where we wake up at 5:30 in the morning and we draw a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier. I'm going to spritz my watercolors there, make sure they're nice and juicy. And then we're going to open the sketchbook up here to our blank page. We did a snack yesterday. Today, the random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier is the Sphinx. We talked a lot about, I think I'm going to turn the book this way again. We talked a lot about Giza and tourism the other day when we did I use we like I'm royalty. I talked a lot the other day when I did the sketch about the pyramids, and so today the focus being the Sphinx here. The Sphinx is right there in Giza also, so that is just as important to the tourism of Egypt as the pyramids. And they take that tourism very seriously. But the Sphinx has its own set of problems that are different from the pyramids in that we're just blocking this in. If you can't tell, I'm just blogging in it, and I want to make sure that the whole thing fits where I want it to go. So I'm just going to block it in. But now I'm going to try and put some of the anchor details in so that it stays, so that it goes where I want it to go. Anyway, the Sphinx has some challenges that the pyramids didn't really have. And let me know if the music's too loud. I've got a new system for the music. I've got a new microphone. We're trying some new things out. Always trying to improve to make this more fun for the viewers. But this is 4,500 years old, built about the same time as the pyramids, and that's debated. It has some weathering that looks like it is rain damage, and that makes people say, well, wait a minute, if it has rain damage, then it was built when the pyramids were, when Egypt was in a wetter climate, which is, closer to the Ice Age, which puts it more around 10,000 years old. So that is, the age is, there's some people who think that it's a little older than 4,000 years. 4,500 years, rather. Not a lot of support for that, but it's out there. Because it's easy to imagine all kinds of things about the Sphinx, because nobody knows anything about the Sphinx. Unlike the pyramids, the Sphinx was lost twice. How do you lose a Sphinx when it's right next to the pyramids, right? And you've only got this 200-foot statue here. Oh, look what I found. That's crazy. It's been here the whole time? Yes. Yes, it has. For 4,000 years. So they lost it because it kind of sits in a low spot in a valley. Mom says the music is low and not distracting. That's good. It kind of sits in a low spot next to a hillside, next to a cliff, and this is carved out of limestone. It's not built like the pyramids were. It's carved out of limestone. And when it was carved down into the valley, the valley filled with sand after some sandstorms. Oh, it's 200 feet by. I'm sorry, my friend Ivy's in the chat. She wanted to know how big it was, and I had that knowledge pulled up because I knew somebody would want to know. Give me just a second here. I pulled it up, but I didn't write it down in the book. It's dumb. My research over here has a lot of scrolling involved. It's about 200 feet. I don't remember if it's 200 feet tall or 200 feet long. I think it's only 200 feet long. I know that it's unfinished. I know the proportions are wrong on it. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Carved out of limestone. It's roughly 240 feet long and 66 feet high. 240 feet long and 66 feet high. I should have written that down in my notes over here, but I didn't. I thought that I'd remember. I just remembered that it was about 200 feet. And I'm, honestly, the way things are going for me lately, I'm happy that I remembered that. But yeah, there's no inscriptions on it. There's a little bit of debate about its age, and it appears to be unfinished. There's some carving techniques that are not consistent throughout the whole project. There's some structures that look like they might have changed, like the face, for instance. They're not convinced that this was the initial plan, that this face on here was the initial plan. They think they might have been trying to do something else because the face is very small compared to the rest of the statue, the rest of the structure. So they don't think the face was part of the original plan. The nose fell off. People tried to blame Napoleon for that. That's not true. The nose was gone long before that. And I thought it would be funny. To me, it's funny to think about it. Some guy up there on scaffolding carving a jackal face, because it should have been a jackal or a lion, is what they were, is what it looks like they were trying to carve. And I can just imagine him up there on the scaffolding, and he's got his little chisel, and he's working on it, and then one little wrong chip, and the whole face just falls off. And then they scramble and they say, "Oh, this is for Pharaoh Khafre. My lord, the jackal didn't suffice to honor you, so we decided to change it to your face, my lord, because we love you." Anything to... I could imagine that scene. Chink! Punt, everybody, punt. I thought that was just as likely as any other story they could come up with, because, again, they don't know anything. There is no inscriptions. There's no There's no hieroglyphs. There's some notes on the inside of it, kind of like the pyramids, where it's just instruction notes, like this. Seriously, this side up kind of construction notes. And so it's easy to come up with your own stories about what it is. But twice, this thing got buried in the sand and lost. About 10,000 years ago, or I'm sorry, about 3,000 years ago, it was rediscovered by one of the kings of Egypt, one of the modern kings of Egypt, who said, I saw it in a dream that it needed to be restored. And they've been working to restore it ever since then, but they lost it again. He fell out of power. The kingdom went broke. And the people didn't care. Went on about their lives. As happens. Which, you know, also to me brings that scene up from Planet of the Apes, where, you know, they've completely forgotten about this statue, and then all of a sudden somebody rides up on a horse and says, you, take you to Hades. When they discover that they've lost this statue, like they found the Statue of Liberty sticking up out of the sand. I mean, just imagine, has this been here the whole time? Like a goldfish in a bowl. Look, a castle. Can't talk, farting. We're about done with this part. How we doing? Right there? That's about right, isn't it? I think so. Let's get some of those stray pencil marks out of the way. I start talking to myself and I forget that there's a microphone that's supposed to pick me up. Way over there. Of course, it picks me up when I sneeze. Do anything but talk. All right. Now then, we got a basic shape going on there. We can start working with some shadows. But yeah, we don't know why the head was so small. I don't know. Did y'all see on Instagram the other day when I posted I had to refill my paints? We don't know why the head was so small. But it's interesting. It's the proportions are off on that. The claws are off. The size of the claws are off a little bit. It is a lion's head and a human body. It's not like the Greek Sphinx. This is much older than the Greek Sphinx. And the story of Odysseus and the riddles that they do. There are no real there are no mythologies. There's no stories about this Sphinx that have survived to today, because as the Muslim culture took over the area, they considered it a pagan thing, so they downplayed it in all their stories. Now they're kind of wishing they had preserved those stories, because it would have really helped with tourism. but there's just not a lot to go off of. They don't have the stories, they don't have the oral history, they don't have anything like that. Which is sad. Sad for me, because I would like to know. I'm an inquiring mind. It is a lion body and a human head. There's no eagle parts. That is, you know, one of the biggest differences between this and the Greek one is the Greek ones have eagle parts. So there's no eagle parts, but it is a lion body and a human head. I want to make sure I get the shadows right, because that's going to drive everything else. They don't have to be spot on, they don't have to be exact, but that is what drives everything else. It lets you know where the light is, it lets you know that this is round, or that this is square or angular. Reflective light versus core shadow versus, all right. I think we're good there. We're going to go with a little ochre, maybe a touch of orange. Did Claudia come in? Hi, Claudia. So we got Ivy and Claudia. Haven't seen Omar in a couple of weeks. He was here for the pyramids the other day, but he wasn't here for Nefertiti. But I'm glad to see Claudia and Ivy. All right, so there's that part. Let me dry that real quick, and then we can come back in with some details and some final ink. Let's see here. I know I had to make sure that we would have a reason to dry the paint today. I have live chat on now, but I guess I had top chat on before. Somebody asked if I had live or top chat on. Buddy said she was here. Well, it doesn't show me who's here unless you talk. I only see if anybody talks. I don't have the viewers' names up there. I probably should. Then I could coach people into talking. But I had to make sure we had something to dry, because Ivy's here for the hair drying. That is the whole reason she sets her alarm, is for the hair drying. I'm going to put some structure marks in here, just a few of them. I don't want this to become the... I don't want this to be too distracting. I just need to see that, people to see that it is not a smooth surface. Part of the restoration has been to, as the limestone cracks and breaks away, part of the restoration has been trying to figure out how to fill the limestone cracks back in. In the 80s and the 90s, for instance, they tried to use cement. And cement is harder than limestone. And that caused more problems than not, because the limestone started chipping away around the cement. And so they had to go back in with a limestone mortar that was more natural to the material of the statue. But it has been under repair in some fashion since 1000 BC. They have been trying to restore it. They have been trying to maintain and restore it since 1000 BC. And so it has a lot of fixed parts to it, and there's some discussion today about whether to continue to try to restore it or to let it decay, let nature take its course and let it decay. And I kind of have mixed emotions on it, because it's like part of what makes things beautiful is their impermanence. But I would hate to think that the Sphinx didn't exist anymore, that it was just something that used to be. But there's a story about the ship of Theseus rather. The ship of Theseus, they started replacing it board by board. Over the years, a board would begin to show wear and they would replace it. And over a number of years, they had replaced each board on the ship multiple times. And the philosophical question was, is it still the ship of Theseus if all of the boards are different than the boards that were than the original boards of the ship? Is it still the Sphinx if everything's been replaced, if it's been recarved over and over and over? And on the ship of Theseus particularly, if they built another ship following the exact same plan with the discarded boards, would that then be the original ship of Theseus? And so what does it mean when you have to continually recarve and repair and replace pieces of the statue? And for this one in particular, I would argue that since that's been part of the art for over 3,000 years, I would say that it's a performance art. And that they should continue performing their dance. That's my take on the matter. If they ever ask me, that's exactly what I'm going to tell them. It's performance art. Keep dancing. Okay. So here's the finished product compared to the photographed. Let's see if I can figure out how to get everything down here so you can see it from my perspective. Safely eject. Move this out of the way. What's the question? So on that one, yeah, I like what Ivy's talking about there. Humans replace all the cells in their bodies about every 7 years. So are we the same person? And I would say no, you're not the same person you were 7 years ago, and you shouldn't let the stuff that person did 7 years ago bother you. There. It's a little wonky. I think I moved. Pretty sure I moved when I was drawing it. So there's my rendition of the Sphinx, my little 30-minute sketch of the Sphinx. There's what I did this morning. There's what I did this morning. The little girl has already pulled a canister for tomorrow. Let's see what that is. We have a sheep. Is it a special kind of sheep? Or is it just a sheep? That print is so small. I think it's just a sheep. So, blah. That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to have some fun with that. We'll probably learn about when sheep were domesticated. It says you. So tomorrow we're drawing you. You's not pet. You is fluffy. Okay, so we're going to do. That's what we're doing tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday the 14th. If you're watching this before 5:30 in the morning on Monday the 14th, then you're watching the trailer, and we're about to do this. So stick around. We'll get on it. But as for today, Sunday the 13th, it's donut time. This is the time of day when I walk to go get donuts. And I don't even get donuts for the family. I just walk up there and get my own apple fritter. And then I think about them while I eat my apple fritter. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining me. I look forward to it every day. This is my accountability practice with my art when I get to come down to art with my besties. Claudia, Ivy, thank you so much for joining me. If I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry. I don't see your names on the side there, but I really appreciate everybody that turned out. You guys have a fantastic day, and be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel, and then we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because when they see me dancing, oh, hey, Daniel. Egyptian culture is not necessarily my favorite. It's just the one I have a whole bunch of because I bought a kit of Egyptian culture, and then I bought a kit of the ancient pharaohs, and it had a lot of duplicate things in it. So, but I do like the Egyptian culture. It's interesting because of the mystery behind it. But we dance until somebody says they see me dancing. And as soon as somebody says they see me dancing, that means that it's time. What am I supposed to sing? Walk like an Egyptian. Wait, oh, wait. We were supposed to sing. He had a song for us. What was the song? Because I'm all about that dry paint drying. I'm all about that dry paint drying. I'm all about that dry paint drying. That one, Ivy put that on her. Ivy put that on her YouTube chat.